What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome to our draft analysis for the UNPL Spring Fling. This is our spring event, which is going to be a ton of fun. We're running a low tier league as a side league kind of thing as we build up for season 5 of UNPL, both main and academy, and I am looking forward to some more low tier content. Obviously, we just got done with LTM. Last week was our last video on that, and it didn't go so well. I didn't exactly take the team that I think that I should have taken, because I just didn't take picks that I thought were in my wheelhouse. So I wanted to remedy that a little bit more this season, and I think that the team that I've built is going to do a lot better. Of course, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure, of course, to click the bell so you're notified when new videos like this are uploaded. And of course, make sure to share this video with your friends so that they can also enjoy some awesome Draft League content. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm back in UNPL. I'm back in the league that I call home, right? I commissioned this league, of course, with Danny Mac and a few others. We finally got Danny Mac back, and I'm excited to see his return. We cooked on his team as well, so definitely make sure to check out his draft analysis, also going up today. It's cool. We've built some really cool teams, and I'm excited to talk about mine with you today. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Before we look at my team, let's take a look at the rules and what makes this a little bit unique. The Spring Fling is going to, of course, be a low tier league, and of course even lower tier Terra. We made some shifts to your typical low tier tiers, as it were, and we added in a couple of things, changed some things around, and basically wanted to just try some things out and see how they work. Usually UNPL ends up being the league that tries some things out where a lot of leagues will shy away from them. And so I wanted to really be the league that experiments with things. And so we've absolutely done that. And I am looking forward to seeing just how things shake up. I decided to try out Speed Boost Blaziken in this league. I didn't take it, but it's in this league. We also added Haxorus, which a lot of people leave Haxorus out in low tier. I think Haxorus is fine. It's just super frail with what it is. Again, I didn't get to take that. I wanted it, but I did not take that. And a few things, we changed how Terra works. It's going to be 2 open Terra captains, but with Terra preview, but the point limit is going to be severely restricted at 6 or lower. So that's kind of cool as well. So we really wanted the super weak stuff, at least traditionally, to be considered for Terra captains. Now we left some goodies in there for the people who want to try out some more powerful stuff, but overall it's going to be pretty standard as far as that goes. What you would consider to be low tier is probably going to be something that's eligible to be a Terra captain. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and see what I picked up this season. If you already saw our draft stream from a couple of weeks ago, you will already know what I brought, but today I'd like to elaborate a little bit more on why I picked what I picked. I'm not going to give away all of my strategies because I don't want my opponents knowing all of them, but I've got some things up my sleeve that I will not be talking about today that I'm excited to reveal to my opponents in battle, because that's the best time to reveal the secrets like that. But so I was 3rd pick, which isn't bad. I was really hoping for like 1st or 2nd, just so that I was a little closer to the wheel. It's an 8-person draft, so ultimately there's not really a bad spot, but I was really hoping to get Haxorus as my 1st pick. In some of the other leagues that had gotten farther, Haxorus made it pretty far down the list. Some people even it didn't even go in the 1st round, which was kind of wild to me. But Haxorus was one that I really had my eye on just due to its really high attack stat. However, it went pick 2, the pick right before me, and so I did not get to get it. So I was like, okay, I got some other options. I don't want to use Blaziken because I'm not like that, and I wanted to give something else a shot. And so enter Iron Jugulus. Iron Jugulus is one of the best breakers in this format. You've got amazing typing in dark and flying. Obviously there's a rock weakness there, so stealth rocks can be a problem, but ultimately I'm willing to overlook that for the stats that this thing has and the ability to run booster energy, to run something like Scarf, something like Specs. You can have U-Turn on it. Of course, you've got the Hurricane, you've got Dark Pulse, and you've got a lot of other stuff too. This thing just hits really hard. Now, while it does not get Nasty Plot, which is a little unfortunate, this thing is still incredibly threatening, and I am super happy to be able to build around it. I think it's definitely better, at least for me, in my play style. It's better than Porygon Z was back in LTM, and so I'm excited to be able to try this thing out this season. Next up, I was like, okay, I need to find something that I can pair well with Iron Jugulus, right? We've got an immunity to Psychic, which is something I'm thinking about. Okay, so maybe something that's weak to Psychic could help, and so we can kind of balance those out. I probably want something that's physical. Maybe something a little slower and bulkier would actually be pretty nice to help me on that side. And so enter Okidogi. Okidogi is a mon that I've been wanting to try out since it dropped back in the DLC, and man, this thing does not disappoint, even in standard draft. It's stupid bulky, especially on the physical side, and especially in low tier. It's just really, really bulky and can go even further with something like Bulk Up. It's an amazing assault vest user and gets all kinds of amazing coverage like Drain Punch, Knockoff, Gunk Shot, Psychic Fangs, you name it, this thing gets so much. It's a grounded poison for me, which is really good to absorb any kind of incoming toxic spikes, and this thing is just ultimately really, really good. Toxic Chain is also another factor that always has to be considered, in the fact that when I hit you with a move, I've always got a 30% chance to actually poison you badly, which is really good on top of everything. So this mon is really good, and I am really excited to have that pair as the first two. Now, originally in my third pick, I was going to go with Swampert, and I actually did take Swampert, and I was going to then swap it out for Donphan later because nobody had taken Donphan by like round 8 or something. And then Donphan got sniped again by the player in the second position who we play week 2. Yeah, I got sniped a ton by Kingler in the second pick, but ultimately we did not get Donphan. Instead, I took the Swampert and split it into its two halves, and I think we ended up getting something better by doing so. So the first half is the water half, and we picked up Inteleon. Inteleon is a really good mon for its speed tier. Once I got done with the draft, I realized that my speed tiers were a little bit off, and I needed something a little bit faster, and this really fit that bill. This doesn't get the best coverage out there, but it's really enough. I needed some good ice coverage, I needed a good water hitter, and some more momentum is always going to be nice, and this checked all of those boxes. I really like this mon. I think Inteleon is nice. It's a little frail, but I really needed the speed more than anything, and so I think that this thing is going to be a really nice addition. Next up in the fourth slot, I needed a steel type, and I needed a fairy type. I was going to grab Tinkaton, but again, that got sniped, so I did not get to pick that up, unfortunately. So I was like, okay, well, what is something else that kind of fills that same role, or at least a similar role? And so we got Klefki, same typing, but different role. Klefki, of course, is a lot less offensive most of the time, but it gets Prankster, and I really like having Prankster mons. You all saw what I was able to do with something like Sableye, and so this is yet another Prankster user. This is going to allow us to fire off things like Thunder Waves. This is going to allow us to possibly even get bulkier with things like the Iron Defense set. There's a lot of really good things that this thing gets, and if you don't respect the Klefki, it absolutely will cause your team tons of issues. It's just a really nice mon. Again, its typing is fantastic. Gives me a poison immunity, which is good. Going to be helpful for a little bit later in the team. But I definitely think that this is going to be a really effective member in slowing down the opponent's team and helping some of my middling speed tier Pokemon shine. Next up, fifth pick, I wanted a dragon. So we're finishing up that Fairy Steel Dragon core really quickly. And there was one that I'd been kind of eyeing. I really thought that I was okay on speed at the time. And so I wanted something a little bit bulkier. I'm going for a little bit of a bulkier team most of the time on this squad. And so, yeah, there was a bulky dragon that was just kind of screaming my name, and that's Regidrago. Regidrago is a really cool addition in my opinion. I have not gotten to try this thing out yet, and so while its coverage is pretty limited, it still is a very scary threat. If you don't have a fairy on deck and ready to go, then this thing will absolutely run through your team. You've got to be careful. And it also has the earthquake if you try to bring in a steel to resist it. It is not going to simply take that lying down. Dragon's Maw, of course, allows this to deal extra damage with things like Outrage, Draco Meteor, Dragon Energy, and plenty of others. There's also Scale Shot if we wanted to make sure that this thing's getting even faster. And there's just a lot that this thing can do. Physical and special are both perfectly viable. And so even a scarf set can be great. Assault vest can work. There's a lot of amazing items that this can run. Then every now and then you just have a Specs Draco come out with Dragon Maw. Yeah, you are not going to be in for a good time. And I really like that mix up between not knowing if it's going to be physical or special. Definitely is super helpful there. Next up, again, I was looking at speed control here, and this is why I wasn't as worried about speed, but I think that this mon really helps me out. I wanted something that was, again, a little bulkier. I wanted something that was bulky on the special side, really, and gave me some extra flexibility to allow some breathing room to some of my other members. And so Araquanid ended up being my next pick. I wanted webs on this team pretty early on, just because my speed tiers were a little middling at the time. And even now, you know, a lot of my mons are kind of in that 80 to 90 range, somewhere in there. And so I wanted to make sure that I'm covering my bases in that way. And I think webs is going to be really nice. That's going to help me to not have to run Scarf on everything. I can run Specs, or I can run Banded instead, or something else, which is super helpful for me. It frees up a lot of options, and I absolutely like that. Araquanid also just gets Water Bubble, which means that my liquidations are going to be dealing a lot of damage. Now, obviously this was Terra banned, so I would never have been able to Terra Water this, but even without that, this is a nice option. It's stupid bulky on the special side, and if you want to bring in the mix-up of random choice banded, this thing will not disappoint. It can do a lot of different things really nicely, honestly, and so even though it has a low attack stat, Water Bubble makes up for it, and I am looking forward to giving this a go this season. Next up, I wanted to go ahead and take my first Terra Captain, and I wanted to make sure that I was also shoring up my possible weakness to electric types here. So, you know, we took Iron Jugulus, we took Inteleon, and now we took Araquanid. And, you know, at the time I had Swampert, but, you know, now looking back on it, I don't have a ground type. And so electric typing can be really nasty into my team. So I needed something that was straight up immune. And so we ended up going with our first Terra Captain, and that is Raichu. Raichu gives us an electric immunity with Volt Absorb, which is super nice. I think this mon is great. It's also fast, and it also gives us the possibility for static. Again, this is another mon that can give me some speed control. It also is a Nuzzle user, again for speed control. And so getting things slowed down is going to be a really, really helpful way for my team to break through. My team's pretty fast, but again, there are some really fast mons. Outside of something like a Kilowattrel, we can really slow down the majority of the fast threats out there in low tier, and I am very much looking forward to being able to do that. This also gets awesome coverage like Surf, Grass Knot, Fly, if we wanted to do something like that. Just all kinds of amazing things. And I'm looking forward to having open Terra on it as well. Terra Flying, of course, is going to be the most obvious one, just because then you are now weak to the electric and you're no longer weak to the ground, which is cool. So it gives you a mix up there. If somebody accidentally forgets and goes for an electric move, then you just absorb it, which is pretty cool. But yeah, definitely a really fun addition. Again, that's more momentum again, so I'm loving that as well. So it just fit really nicely on the roster, in my opinion. Next up, I was looking and I'm like, man, I have so many points left. I have a ton of points left, and I don't have a fire type at this point, and I also don't have a spin blocker. I don't have a ghost. And Skeledirge was still on the field there. So yeah, I was like, yeah, I might as well give this a shot. Skeledirge is one of those mons that is just kind of insanely good in draft in general, but even furthermore in something like low tier. This thing is really bulky and it gets unaware. So we don't have to worry about setup pretty much at all, because you just say, I don't care. I don't care. You set up +6 on with Calm Minds, it's gonna be as if you didn't do it. You're at +6 attack on Sword Stances, I don't care. I'm just gonna take it normally, and then I can snowball against you with Torch Song, which is really good. I really love this mon. It's also a Will-O-Wisper, which is really good. I definitely like that option against some of the more scary physical threats. Of course, Tauros Water comes to mind. That's a really scary physical threat. You've got things like Haxorus, which is a really scary threat. A lot of your physical threats like this would normally want to come in on Skeledirge, and the Will-O-Wisp can really make this a tough match for the rest of those members. So definitely a really great pickup in my opinion. Then finally, what was my last pick during draft, there will be yet one more after this because I split the Swampert in half, but originally I was gunning for Terra Dodrio, and I thought that Terra Dodrio would be a really fun and cool addition, just because obviously there's like flail that you can do, there's it does get ground coverage, so bonuses to drill run. There's just a lot that I really liked about that. The speed tier was nice, but the more that I looked at it, the more it just kind of felt redundant with what I had built with the team after all the snipes. And so I was like, okay, I think I need to pivot. I think a grass type would actually be better here, just so that I can finish out my Firewater Grass core as well. And so we ended up with Terra Sawsbuck, and Sawsbuck is a mon that I have never tried in draft before, but I think it has a lot of potential. And the main part is Serene Grace. Serene Grace is a great ability. If any of you have ever seen Jirachi do anything, you'll know why this ability is great. It doubles the secondary effects chance of pretty much everything. Most people will recognize Sawsbuck for going for something like Headbutt, which normally would have a 30% chance to flinch, but that gets raised to 60% afterwards, which is really good. And so Terra Normal is a really good strategy there. But this also gets Sap Sipper, and you've got to be a little bit careful with going for that. If I go for something like Terra Water or Terra Ground, you can't just click the grass moves there either. So definitely a big mix up on that front as well. Gotta be really careful on that. And finally, our last member. Like I said, this was, you know, it's a ground type because it was split in Swampert, and we ended up with one more spinner, which was really important to me, and that is Sandslash. I felt that my removal wasn't the best on this team, and so I wanted a really decent spinner. I, of course, wanted a better ground type, but of course, you know, at 4 points, beggars can't be choosers. It gives me rapid spin. It's not that frail, at least on the physical side. So this can be like a more physically defensive kind of thing, which actually works. It gets knockoff, earthquake, stealth rocks itself if we want to make this the setter, which is good. There's plenty of workable options that come with Sandslash, and I'm honestly looking forward to it. I think this mon actually has the potential to be a really good support mon. It's definitely not going to be anywhere near kill leader, and I'm not trying for it to be, but I definitely think that the utility that it provides to the team is going to be super nice. So that is the squad for this season of the UNPL Spring Fling. I know that I didn't talk about all of the strategies that I'm looking at this season, and it was kind of a shallow dip into everything, but I don't want to give away all of my strategies just yet because we've got some things up the sleeve that I think are going to be a ton of fun. Week 1 goes up 1 week from today, and I hope you all are looking forward to that. We get to go up against one of our admins, Nuglo, and I'm looking forward to that matchup. It is going to be a wild ride. So until then, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.